What's the worst restaurant you've ever been to, and why? I went to a restaurant with my family, and the waiter was a complete jerk. He was rude and kept making snide comments about my daughter's weight. She was only 12 at the time, and it was obvious she was getting upset. I told him to stop, but he just laughed and said, "What are you gonna do about it?" I was furious, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of my family. I decided to get back at him in a different way. I noticed he had a tattoo on his arm that looked like it was from a gang. I used to be a cop, so I knew how to recognize them. I also noticed he had a scar on his face that looked like it was from a knife fight. I figured he must have had a rough past, and I decided to use that against him. I waited until he came back to our table, and then I said, "Hey, I recognize you. You used to be in the Bloods, right? I remember arresting you a few years ago. You were a real piece of work back then." His face went pale, and he started stuttering. He said, "No, you must be mistaken. I've never been in a gang." I just smiled and said, "Oh, I'm pretty sure it was you. I never forget a face." He looked terrified, and he quickly left our table. A few minutes later, the manager came over and apologized for the waiter's behavior. We got our meal for free, and the waiter never came back.